Hello, I'm Miss B. Hanley, and today we are talking about Lucille Fletcher. Lucille Fletcher is an American playwright who was born Violet Lucille Fletcher. She wrote some of the most iconic radio plays of her time and even adapted them for stage and screen. One of the first ones that I want to talk about is Sorry, Wrong Number. It is quoted by Orson Welles, the infamous radio actor and writer himself, as one of the most celebrated plays in the history of American radio. The original story is set during the time of switchboards and telephone operators. A bedridden woman attempts to call her husband at work to see when he will be coming home. Only once she is connected, she overhears a conversation between two men plotting a murder. She attempts to contact the switchboard operator and the police, but slowly begins to feel more and more helpless as she tries to prevent the crime from happening. Allegedly, Lucille Fletcher came up with this idea after a trip to the grocery store to buy medicine for her sick child. A rude woman in line refused to allow her to cut ahead. Her husband is quoted as saying that it was an act of revenge, as in she wrote this play based on the woman from the grocery store in order to write a horrible story about her. It originally aired on the show Suspense radio program on May 25th, 1943. Essentially a one-woman show with Agnes Moorehead as Mrs. Stevenson, the main character. Fletcher adapted her radio play into a full-length screenplay, which added on a lot more to Mrs. Stevenson's character, her husband, and the other characters around her in the play. In 1948, the film version of Sorry, Wrong Number is about 3 times as long as the original radio play. The original radio play runs about 30 minutes, and the movie runs about an hour and a half. The film version includes flashbacks to previous events in Mrs. Stevenson's life and marriage, as well as scenes showing events involving other characters. Okay, we'll give a spoiler warning. If you don't want to know the ending of Sorry, Wrong Number, if you don't want to be spoiled, then just go ahead and skip ahead. But the ending of Sorry, Wrong Number is pretty much a classic suspense twist. Mrs. Stevenson overhears these two men plotting her murder, and as she recounts their conversation, she starts to realize that there's a lot of familiar and similar things that they talk about around her. Only when it is too late does she realize that the men were plotting her murder and that her husband had hired them to kill her. Fascinating, amazing, almost kind of funny twist to the play as well, and it's really suspenseful and spooky. It's one of my favorite plays. The next play that we're going to be taking a look at by Lucille Fletcher is called The Hitchhiker. The Hitchhiker was originally written specifically for Orson Welles, the famous radio actor and writer, and was originally written specifically for radio. In this story, a man goes on a cross-country road trip. He repeatedly notices the same hitchhiker standing along the side of the road. Though the hitchhiker's appearance is non-threatening, the driver becomes increasingly disturbed upon inexplicably seeing him again and again alongside multiple roads across several states. After making a phone call home, however, he is shocked to hear information that totally changes his understanding of his predicament. The Hitchhiker was, like I said, originally written for Orson Welles in the days when he was one of the master producers and actors in radio. Orson Welles famously produced a production for the radio of War of the Worlds where people actually thought Earth was being invaded by aliens. That's how convincing his radio productions were. It was designed to provide a vehicle not only for his famous voice, but also for the original techniques of sound, which became associated with his radio presentations. So one of the big things to focus on in The Hitchhiker is not just your voice, but also sound effects that are included in the play itself. Rod Serling from The Twilight Zone adapted The Hitchhiker for the first season of his television anthology, The Twilight Zone, for an episode originally broadcast on January 22nd, 1960. Serling's version mostly kept to the same plot as the radio show with a few exceptions, most notably changing the driver from a young man to a young woman. A stage play was soon adapted by Fletcher herself, and the broadcast itself has been used as recently as 2020. The twist, the plot of Hitchhiker, is once again a very classic, iconic suspense twist. Obviously, you know the driver keeps seeing the same hitchhiker over and over again. He doesn't know where he's coming from or why this man seems to be following him. But when he calls home at the end of the play, he's trying to call his mom. His mom doesn't answer. Instead, another person answers and says, no, his mom is in mourning for her only son who died on his cross-country road trip. Those are the two short plays by Lucille Fletcher that are going to be produced together and performed together as a part of our fall play production. I hope this helped you understand a little bit more about Lucille Fletcher and her work. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in class. Bye!